Welcome back, everybody, to Gray Gamer Social Club. This is Devin. Frank is hanging out in the background on mute, but I will be hosting tonight, and I am here again with Andrew Lindy from, what was the company again?
Juncture Media.
All right, and so, please, what's the latest news from Juncture Media?
Well, we got version 1.0 of our first game, which is called AVARIAvs, out on Steam last week, which was a big deal. It was a ton of work, a lot of craziness leading up to getting that out there, but now we can say we've got our first game out the door, which is a cool thing.
And how's that? How was the launch? How did everything go?
It
Game's
was
going along.
Man, my biggest concern was making sure the game works, making sure that it, was what we said it was going to be, which was this PvP JRPG experience. And I had known that the gameplay was what we had sort of promised for a while from bringing it to shows, but actually just getting it on Steam and having people play it from all over the world in different languages and different time zones and different regions, and just having it be kind of like out there and technically working was what I was mainly concerned on. And that definitely, is all good, and it's out there and it works. So that's kind of, I know it's a low bar, but when you're trying to make something, kind of from scratch, that it's actually kind of a high bar.
Well, so from my experience playing the game, I think it looks beautiful. The gameplay is awesome. Um, Ryan Wiley says, Andrew, you'll never keep us down.
Yeah,
I
you'll never keep
don't
us
keep us
down.
down.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yep.
So yeah.
Oh my God, Ryan's the man. Yeah, he's one of our voice actors, and just one of our most active community members. That guy is really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent player. Just before the podcast started, I was playing around with him, and it was a really great one. Went down to like the third judgment. Two of my characters just got blown away at the end. Um, And it was just down to two mistakes. I used optimism when I didn't need to, and I don't know why I did. I should have just did a heal on Orisa, and I used an attack wherein I should have just waited and not attacked because the damage got reflected back to me, and
Ooh,
I knew the reflect was going to go up, and it was a double kill. But then the judgment killed two of my characters. Well, I think it would have been a big difference. I think two of his characters would have dropped. So
yeah. I mean,
you
the
know,
judgment situation is, it was our sudden death answer when we didn't have one, and I really didn't want it to just be like a sudden death, so we tried to, kind of make a personality and a character out of the judge a little bit, or the feeling of a character. And for new players, the judge is something that you have to learn, and you have to learn how to play around. And I like that the judge itself it's a bookend, to the match, and it's become a part of the gameplay. It's really a part of the game just as much as the battle system is at this point, and I'm not too upset by that.
no, and it's interesting that you say that because I utilize the judgment a lot when I'm playing. A lot of times, what I will do is someone will target one of my characters, Cirrus, and they'll take him down as quickly as possible. And then by then, the judge starts coming out. But I've set up enough. If they don't debuff me, they don't get rid of my any group that can't get rid of my heal stacks and my ability to keep myself reflected and healed, they typically end up getting judged and losing their characters. So
Yeah,
what we'll
and
take, yeah,
you can play around the judge. I mean, and that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be something that you understand how it works. There was many different ways we could have handled a sudden death mechanic, and a lot of them would require explanation, and they might be like, well, what's going on, how come it's attacking everyone, or who, what's happening. But we figured the judge just coming out, killing the lowest HP characters is just super easy to understand. You hear it once, and you never have to like guess what it's doing. But it's funny. One of the, like, we had a big oversight in the judge system. Well, it wasn't an oversight. We knew there was something needed, but we didn't realize how it was going to adversely affect online play. But like the week leading up to launch, we actually had a pretty bad bug in the game that was causing me to lose a ton of sleep for about 4 days. Um, like the weekend, like 4 days before launch is when we finally fixed it. But it had to do with the judgment, and we needed a way to resolve HP ties further. So, as you know, speed ties are resolved by input speed. So, if we have two heroes that are the same speed, the one that acts faster is going to break that speed tie. Well, now that mechanic is also in the judge system. So, if you have 5 or 6 heroes that all have 100% health, who gets judged? Like everybody has 100% health. It used to be the lowest HP number. So if it was like everyone has 100%, then Loris only has 1800 and everyone else has 2000, Loris dies even though they're all at 100%. But that didn't feel fair either. So now it goes down to input speed. And so if you feel like you're going to be tied for HP on a judgment round, make sure you act fast.
Good advice. What about if their vitality has been lowered by an attack? Like a debuff that lowers vitality.
So the vitality in our game is not tied to HP, if that's what you were maybe
Oh,
implying.
is there anything that reduces their max HP?
No, we specifically kept out all things that would change a character's total HP. We had experimented with like things like, I don't know if you've played Final Fantasies, like bubble belt type things that would like double a character's HP.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And early on in our testing, we actually allowed you to do a lot of equipping on each hero, and so we had items that would like give you 100 extra HP here or there, and we just got rid of that because we felt like it just felt like too much like a game of like addition and subtraction, and we just kind of we decided to omit that element at some point in the development.
Okay. So what there was also something that I had mentioned to you at PAX, that a guy lost 3 of his characters that were at max HP, and I don't remember what it was that caused that. I'm not sure if you remember the conversation, but it was like
I do remember that.
Yeah.
We were talking about the problems with the judge, and that was a problem with the judge. Like if you have 2 healing parties and judge round, if both parties are just sitting there topping off and healing, who gets killed? Well, in the previous system, it would then look to total HP. So like Loris is one of the lower total HP characters, so a lot of times he would just be getting killed right by the judge. And so this us adding input speed to it, not only did it fix something that was an online problem, but it was also killing 2 birds with 1 stone and giving us a little extra skill to the judge and who she ends up choosing.
Gotcha. Oh, the judge is a woman?
Yeah, we decided it's a girl. You can hear the female laughing, and
Right.
Yeah, we someday maybe we'll show you what the judge looks like, but for now, she's a spirit in the night.
Nice. I like it. I like the mystery behind that. So anything that you find you're going to be working on towards improving the game going ahead? Anything you can discuss?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some housekeeping stuff to do. Now with more players having it, we've got a lot more bug reports for fringe cases that we were not able to identify before launch. Nothing too terrible, which is great. But we want to do the first step is to really just tighten it up as much as possible. We also have a long list of balance ideas since our first tournament. This last weekend we hosted an invitational tournament with a $5,000 prize pool, and
yeah, I missed out. I had work that morning.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah.
But we had people playing from all over the place. It was pretty cool, and we definitely saw some metas emerge that I'm not. Are they metas that I don't like? No, they're just fine. I want to try to. I'm not going to go around nerfing. That's not the idea. We just want to make sure that people are utilizing multiple viable play styles, and don't feel pigeonholed to to one particular party.
Yeah, party mixing has been interesting. I do notice that there's certain setups that work better. Um, I think it was Rose who told me that whenever people use Cirrus, they tend to use Loris in the group, and with Servo C, and that's the group Ryan was playing just now.
Yeah, that's called
Um,
team. That team got a name, and it's called Team 300 right now. It got named sort of in the in the last tournament.
Interesting, yeah. Um, so I've my groups are definitely kind of like I guess oddball groups like Arisa, Servo C, and Cirrus, and trying to make that work. And it had worked. It has worked for me, but Ryan, Rose, and I'm sure Caitlus too will typically mop the floor with me because they just know those groups and how they work better. Those like specialty groups that people have kind of clung on to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. So this first tournament was all new players. That was a requirement that we set for it. It couldn't be anybody who had the beta or, was playing the game before launch. We wanted to give everybody the game at the same time, which was roughly 1 week before the tournament, and just let a bunch of new players go at it and figure out what their strategies were going to be. Now, during that tournament, we said that we will invite the top 15 people on the leaderboard from the weekend to the next tournament. So now we're going to be bringing some people up, for example, like Cadles and other players who have been involved with the game for over a year or so in some cases. They're going to be in the tournament now playing against some of the same streamers from last time. And I think we're going to see a lot more variety and a lot more counterplay that we didn't see in the first time when everyone kind of just saw one or two viable teams and just stuck to those because, that was what the meta was that weekend. But I'm really excited to see it change this next time and see some new stuff released into the wild. And that's why I don't want to go crazy with balance changes between now and then, because I think there's a lot of answers in the game that people haven't even touched yet.
Yeah, that makes me want to go and mix up my group a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, you should
Yeah.
experiment right now because, I mean, in matchmaking at least, there's a chance that, I mean, I think just there's many viable parties in matchmaking.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. The My last few experiences were just with the more players who have had the beta for a long time and really got into building these groups that work very well. But like I said, when I was just doing matchmaking with the group that I had, that specific Risa, Servo C, and Cirrus, it was doing well, and I was pretty satisfied with the matches I was winning. I'd lose one or two here and there, but quite a few of the other ones I was actually doing well, and I was happy with it. So
Nice. That's
yeah,
fun.
it's going to be fun to try out other ones. I changed one of them to the Ione. That's the artist. What's her name?
Ev.
Ev.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So I threw her
she's
in there.
great. She has like she can. I mean, in her offensive archetype can just put out a ton of damage, and then her more restorative archetype, she can still put out some damage, but then has some really cool sustain and support options that that's what Eonis are really supposed to be, is sort of that dual character where you can find some strong DPS, but you can also find some cool support stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. So do I? That's true with the Ione, but the other classes then, what's the like the mana soldiers, are they supposed to be a hybrid of damage and buffs or healing? Because I noticed like is it Dithor who is
I say Dithor, but
Dithor?
I think however people want to say it is cool for me. But yeah,
No, no,
Dithor.
yeah, Dithor.
Yeah, basically mana soldiers are meant to be pretty much damage. They're meant to be the carry, the DPS, whatever, right? Um, and so you'll notice that they have very limited healing options. When they have healing options, it does damage to themselves. Um, They have, they have a lot of self damage. When they do anything outside of dealing damage to somebody else, when they have like some utility, there's a cost there. Um, and so that's where mana soldiers are supposed to kind of fall.
Okay, so and then the mage classes are the ones that are dedicated mostly to healing and debuffing.
Yep,
Or not
healing. Well, no,
debuffing,
healing and dispelling.
dispelling.
Yeah, and bolstering defenses. And then servos are really meant to be, in general, defenders and other defensive. And they're kind of like a sentinel class, like a tank almost, right?
Yeah.
But then within each class, there's 4 heroes, and we tried to give every class like a very purely offensive hero, and then a very purely defensive hero, as well as a mixed one, and then sort of a wild card one that we've reserved for a different kind of archetype. And so basically within each hero, or sorry, within each class, there's also different. You can take the quote unquote the DPS character. You can take the DPS mage, which is essentially Orisa. Carries also has a lot of damage output, even though they're both mages. So you could build like a berserker team that's going to have a mage, an Ioni, and a servo or a mana soldier. Like you can build a DPS team with all the classes. So, or a heal team with all of them for that matter.
Right. And then, of course, within the classes, the characters, there's 2 other archetypes. Did you just mention that? Or
Yeah, exactly. So then inside of each hero, there's 2 archetypes, and we really tried to make those be different. Now there's 5 archetypes in the game, and each class only has 2 archetypes. So to make that simpler, it's like, for example, soldiers have Shadow or Fury. So Fury is more about like kind of raw output, whereas Shadow is kind of some more trickier stuff, right?
Right.
If that makes sense. And then servos have Grit and Wit. Their Grit is really all about really kind of having like a lot of defense and kind of turtling up, where Wit is some more kind of like some more meta sort of play, maybe messing with focus or doing things like that. So, they kind of are the way they sound. Obviously, they could be interpreted in many different ways, and they're pretty generic. But if you kind of think to yourself and you think like, well, am I going to go Fury or Shadow? You can kind of guess on what way to play a Fury hero over a Shadow hero,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That really does make it interesting that you have about pretty much 32 characters or so to choose from.
Yeah, I mean that's how we feel it. I feel like it. Some people are like, well, they're this. It's the same abilities, but the abilities build different in both. You get a different alt and you get a different item. So, I mean, if we could have built 16 more heroes, like in terms of production capability, there probably would have been 32 heroes. You know what I mean? But in what we were capable of as a small indie studio, we could make 16 good heroes. I mean, at least I hope they're good. But making double that would have just kind of put us in a hard spot for production. So that was something we decided to do, is just kind of make that archetype system as opposed to making that many individual heroes.
Sure, and it's actually a brilliant way to get around such a fairly significant problem. If you want to have a lot of versatility and customization, you're going to have a lot of characters. I think that's brilliant, and I disagree with anyone who says that it's the same character, same abilities, because there is a huge difference between either stacking one character with a whole bunch of what is the life loss each turn? What is that called?
Oh, sorry, the what per turn?
Like when you cast Defile or Scorch and it causes...
Oh, damage. Yeah, well, it's called Degeneration, which is our damage over time, or in this case, damage over turn.
Right, damage over turn. So it basically is a dot in a way.
It is. It's a dot. We call them dots and hots.
Okay, cool.
Same,
yeah.
Because, I mean, everybody knows what those are, and if you know it's a turn-based game, you would probably guess that if 5 seconds go by, you're not taking damage.
Right. It's damage over turn. So there is a big difference between stacking 4 of those on one character or 5 of those on one character and then 4 on random characters. It really alters the character and how they play. And since
Yeah, I
all of their
agree.
abilities change, it creates for a very, very different party. So and the what is it? The frost burns change
The
and the
focus burn, yeah,
focus burn change and the
the
items
item
change.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, and it also there's some familiarity there, like having the same 3 skills always on Ev is actually a nice, like, Ev, what abilities they have, and then switching between the 2 archetypes is just like kind of in your mind, like, well, I'm gonna play her like this now, um, as opposed to this, and that's kind of actually some familiarity that's nice. So you don't have to just learn. You're playing a new hero. It's like, oh my god, I got to learn this whole new toolkit, and it's kind of hard to remember. But if you're like, oh, this is just Ev in 2 different stances, or we call them archetypes, um, then it's a little bit easier, I think, to learn.
Yes, absolutely. And it will. I really do want to see what you were saying earlier, how it's going to create these counter plays against like one of the standard groups that everybody's playing. Who figured out what breaks that group every single game.
Yeah, and
That's really going to be fun.
here's the other thing we haven't done yet, and there's a reason why tournaments usually do these kind of things. We didn't do any kind of banning, for example. We didn't do any kind of, like, you got to submit your parties ahead of time sort of deal. Like, we can add these extra tournament rules on top of the existing game, that will also force people to use more variety. And that's something we have in our back pocket always. If we find that potentially the meta is getting stale in a sense, and people are just jumping on the same bandwagon and all doing the same thing, all we have to do is implement a ban, or say you can only, it's a best out of 5, but you can't ever duplicate a hero. Like, you got to use different heroes each party. Like, all we have to do is add in a rule like that, and all of a sudden the game changes dramatically.
There is no random selection option, right?
No, there is not.
Because that would be an interesting tournament where you have random selection, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, you just got this group, deal with it, figure it out, and
Yeah,
face
we could
off. Yeah.
easily make like a little web app, or a little thing, a little generator, and just like push a button and be like, here's your party, and boom, push it for the next person. Here's your party. Yeah, I mean, like, there's all kinds of fun things like that. Whereas, ideally, if we had more budget, like, we would make like playlists or whatever. You could jump in and be like, random party playlist, and just by going to that playlist, you would, just be generated random party and thrown into matchmaking, stuff like that. But we need, we need a ton of players for stuff like that to be viable. And people have also asked me, like, well, why don't you have this kind of playlist, or why isn't there like a casual playlist and this and that? And it's like, the reality is just, we're another indie game, and there's a lot of games that people play, and it's hard to get matchmaking queue filled up. I mean, even AAA games fail because they can't get enough players. You know what I mean? So I've always built this game with understanding that there's a high possibility that when whoever you are, find out about this game and you buy it, maybe it's 2 months from now, maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's a year from now. Who knows who's going to be playing at that point in time? And so we always wanted the game to be able to work regardless of the player base. And I kind of went on a tangent there, but I don't know if that made sense.
No, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's absolutely true for any online game. Um, the especially like PvP over time is going to become less popular. It's going to
Yeah,
possibly be stale. As much as I love Dark Souls 3 and the PvP in that, I'm not going back to Dark Souls 3 to PvP. You
yeah.
know, um,
And
and,
that's it. And I mean, like, the thing is and that's what we knew when we were getting into this, is that it's got to be a game where you can just private match your friend. Like, I just assume that there's there's JRPG nerd buddies out there, right, that have been, playing games together, or at least been talking about playing games together for years. And it's like, hey dude, we can like fight each other in this JRPG style against each other. I imagine some guy discovering about the game and getting his friend to buy it and then playing private match all weekend or whatever, like that's the kind of that's what I kind of expected things would be like. But around the tournaments are really how we focus energy on the game again. So every time we host a tournament, we also do a leaderboard challenge during the tournament, which means that while the tournament is active, everybody who owns the game, if they're playing matchmaking, they can place in the leaderboard and get invited to the next tournament. So it really involves the entire community, not just the invited participants, not just the qualified participants from the last one in the big tournament, but everybody playing matchmaking has a chance to like climb that ladder and be a part of the next one. So that's when we're gonna like be able to focus the existing players, hopefully bring in some new players, and really all rally around like 4 days of playing. Because realistically, I don't think, like, we're not trying to be a game that is gonna we're not gonna overtake Overwatch. We're not gonna take over these huge like esport AAA games. But if for certain weekends we can be the game that you care about, like that's what we got to try to be.
Yeah, that's understandable. I will say that the matchmaking queue, I don't know how you keep track of it. I'm sure you have plenty of information on it, but I do find that it hasn't been too hard to find the match.
That's great.
And it has been against different players. I've made, you were saying how, buddies would be able to log in and, excuse me for a second.
Oh, no problem.
Log in and play. I've made friends already in the game.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like Ryan and I have been in contact since I had the early access. Caitlus too. So these are people that I just met, and sometimes on Discord we message each other and say, hey, do you want to jump into a match together? So that's already happening in the background. I just don't know how aware of it you are.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so there is a community there.
We're super
grow.
grateful. Yeah, we're super grateful for everybody who's been involved, and the people who are passionate about it are, they get it and they know what we're trying to do. Now, I just have to put on my marketing hat, my tournament director hat, my Reddit Imgur, just the exposure machine, and just make sure that people know it exists. And like, I've always looked at this game, and maybe this is a mistake, I don't know, but I've always looked at it as a slow burn and a long life cycle. Like, I'm not expecting this game to be something that drops and everybody's talking about it the second it comes out and flocking to it. It's the kind of thing where you're like, maybe it takes people to make a decision to buy a game. They need to hear about it. They need to see it for a little bit. They need to think about it. They need to maybe follow you on Twitter. All of a sudden they see like a few GIFs you post. Then they see you're hosting a tournament. Then all of a sudden one of the streamers they follow is streaming Avaria, and that's the night that they decide to buy it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a story game that you have to buy and, I want to know what happens and I need to see the end. It's like, it's an experience, and hopefully the tournaments are kind of like the campfire that people want to gather around. At least that's the theory right now. That's what we're trying to do with the whole outreach and marketing right now.
So what are the reviews looking like? From what I understood, they seemed pretty good so far on Steam.
Yeah, so far on Steam, it's good. I mean, as you know or maybe don't know, the way the review system works on Steam is that people who have received the key from us, whether they purchased it or they got it for free, doesn't matter. If they got a key from me, their reviews don't count towards the aggregate score. So, their thumbs up and thumbs down don't count, and their and it doesn't make your total review number go up or down either. So the only reviews that get counted in there are people who have bought the game like from the page organically. And so, that's one thing that was, I don't want to say it was a hard lesson, and it's not. I mean, doing it over again, I would do another Kickstarter. Like I would do another Kickstarter. We might do one for our next game. Like maybe that's something we would even announce soon for our story game. I don't know. But the problem with that is that everybody who backs you on Kickstarter then gets a key. So that was, I think we did $32,000 or something on Kickstarter. That's $32,000 in sales that doesn't go through Steam, first of all, and help us with the Steam algorithm. Second of all, none of those people can leave a review for the game that counts. So all those early adopters, all those like super fans, really, that aren't going to be able to review the game that will really affect it in a meaningful way. So that's kind of a big trade-off when you do a pre-sale or Kickstarter, that sort of thing.
They see. I don't see why Steam does that. I don't see how that would help.
Well, it was a history. There was review bombing. So in the past, what would happen is you, as a developer, would just give keys to you'd be like, hey, you want a free copy of my game? You got to give me a positive review. And the guy would be like, okay. There's all kinds of people that just want to collect games in their Steam library. And if you say all you got to do is give me a positive review, that's fine, because I can even, you could even revoke their key. If they didn't give you a positive review in like 24 hours, you can just be like, boop, and you could void their key. So that's what everyone was doing. So the reason that the rule is there is that they were trying to move away from that practice. But it's not a perfect system, but what it has done now is penalized you if you do something like a Kickstarter, which I wish there was a way to verify, well, these are Kickstarter backers and they paid for the game, and these reviews are legit. But unfortunately, Steam doesn't have time to sort through that kind of stuff, nor do they care. So that's the way the system is, the way it is.
Gotcha. Well, as far as trying to reach more people, hopefully the listeners of the podcast give it a try. All right, those of you out in the social club, AVARIAvs.
Come play with us.
It is a blast. There's a great community already forming. So there's a lot of the diehards that are from earlier access, but there's definitely some new players on there. I do remember Saturday, that tournament day, man, I was just getting match after match after match. On the weekends, the afternoons and evenings, Eastern Standard Time, there's been matches going. I've been getting different games going, so...
That's fun.
Yeah. So it looks like it's building something, and we want to see that definitely grow. So, the best of luck to you with it.
Thanks. And thanks for playing and having me on the podcast again. I think our next announcement, like I mentioned, is going to be the next tournament. Going to be in roughly a month from now. It's nothing's confirmed, but it's likely going to be another 5K prize pool, and we're going to take some of the people who qualified last time and got to the top 8. They're all coming back. Plus, we've got 15, new leaderboard additions from the leaderboard challenge that happened last time, and then we're going to invite more streamers from all over the world. So we're aiming for 100 participants in this next tournament. So it'll probably be an Asian bracket of 50 players and a North American European bracket of 50 players to start with again, and it should be hopefully really fun to watch. And maybe we'll enlist some of those banning rules or some other things to just kind of shake up the meta a bit. But we're still kind of thinking about all that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Maybe I'll be able to get into that one. I'll do my best.
Yeah,
to
cool,
qualify.
Man. Of course.
I'll also, oh man, damn! I just lost my train of thought. There was something else I was going to say about it.
It's late.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, it's something that Frank does Twitch streaming. So at some point, I would love to get him into the game. And hopefully get a Twitch stream going, and or if anything, I want to put it on my laptop as well. so that I have like a nice size screen TV and play with some friends that I invite over just in a local game, because
Yes,
even that's a lot of fun
yeah,
too.
split screen is fun, and that's part of the reason why we put split screen on, because I hoped that if one buddy found it, and if you ever had anybody over, just like, hey dude, play against me in this game. Um, I think local split screen's a thing that a lot of games haven't had, and a lot of games kind of cut that. I mean, unless it's a party game or it's meant to be a local multiplayer game, but like our game was kind of conceived as an online thing, first and foremost. But having local split screen's fun. Just one person can buy the game, or like a kid in his dorm room can have it, and everybody can play. And so that mode I think is a fun one too.
Yeah. So just for a couple of more minutes, just if you have the time, just wanted to ask you, what are you into now? Like, what games outside of working on Avaria versus what have you been enjoying and playing?
Man, I've been playing a lot of MTG Arena. Um,
Oh, very cool.
like
Nice.
that's been my like only game since October when it went in. I don't know what, like I hate big games nowadays. Like, are they in alpha? Are they in beta? I mean, dude, they're just out. But whatever. It came out in October. I think it's considered the beta still. But since it came out in October, yeah, that's been like definitely the one I played the most. It was cool when I was at PAX East this year. I was kitty corner from the Mythic Invitational, like the huge Magic tournament. So that was really fun. I was literally like, if I was home and not at PAX, I'd be watching the Mythic Invitational. But now
Huh.
instead, I'm like just standing here at my booth, staring at it the whole time. So it was perfect. And then other than that, like my wife is playing through Celeste right now, and so we're kind of like passing the controller back and forth through that game, which is it's just a lot of fun. Um, and I think I'll be playing a few other games. I'm working on a concert in Los Angeles with a friend of mine, that's going to actually focus on indie music. And so we're going to take some indie game composers, and orchestrate their compositions arrange their compositions for orchestra. And we're gonna have a big concert out in LA, and so we're gonna feature music from Celeste, from Shovel Knight, and some other indie games that have really not gotten a big concert like that before. Um, so I'm sure I'm going to be playing some more of the games that are going to be in our program that I have not played before. I can't be showing up and meeting the composers and not have played the game. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the music, that would be awesome to hear. There's so much great music in indie games. There's a game from Playcrafting that I keep forgetting the name of it. It has something to do with what lurks in the shadows.
Oh yeah, uh huh.
Oh, and the music to that is some of the best music I've heard in a game. Period. It fits the game so well. It's got that eerie pattern to it. It always makes you feel like there's something lurking. If you were playing in the dark, it would give you a real like chill up your spine every so often. It's really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, music is huge. I mean, like I came from music before working in games, so like music is really big to me. And we also have the soundtrack for AVARIAvs for sale as
Hmm.
well on Steam. You can get the DLC. It's only $3.99. One of my friend Philip is the one who did the music, and we've been in a band together, and he's a really amazing guitarist. And yeah, I mean, there's so much talent everywhere in games, really. Like on the indie level, on the triple I level, on the triple A level. There's just, I mean, and across all departments, whether it's programming, art, I mean, it's just insane what goes into doing this, and coming being basically like just a gamer my entire life, and then just deciding to make a game. You know, like the change in my view of what a video game is just so astounding, from just being a gamer to now being like having completed this project. It's just like, holy crap, you just got to have so much respect for everybody in this industry, because it's just really hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've also worked on like some RPG rules. I've got like 13 pages written, and
Oh, nice.
did a little bit of playtesting and stuff. And it's a very difficult thing. You have a vision of what you want, and sometimes you feel like every time you take a step forward, you if something seems to not work, your vision isn't being achieved, and so you have to take a step back and try to work through it. And yeah, I mean, putting together a game is definitely quite a feat.
Yeah,
So
I
kudos
I'm
to you
just
on that, man.
thanks. Yeah, I mean that was really what a lot about this game was about getting the first one out and being proud of it, and we got it out, and I'm proud of it, and there's still more to be done. Some balancing and some tech stuff, and we're gonna get that stuff cranked out, and see where we go from there, and then hopefully we're working on Avaria Ghost of the Immortal, and hopefully have some details about that. Hopefully before the end of the year, but we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be so. Is that would be a new game entirely, or that would be an expansion, or
It would be a separate title. Um, and yeah, and from there, eventually, I would imagine that Versus and Ghost of the Immortal would be bundled together, at some point. Um, but we're gonna keep them separate for now because I know some people don't care about PvP, and some people don't care about story. You know what I mean?
right?
And some people like both. And I hope that with our game, that if people buy one or the other, that they will buy the other. Just because hopefully they'll want more, whether they're a PvP player mainly or a PvE player. Um, but that's all. Those are all the plans on the chalkboard. But you never know how it's going to actually happen in reality.
Right. Of course. Yeah. All right.
Well, cool, man. Well, yeah, it was good chatting with you. Let's do it again sometime. Once maybe after we've done this second tournament, we can kind of check in on things, and I'll see you online and in the Discord, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. All right. Thanks for joining us here. That was Andrew Lindy from one more time Juncture Media.
Juncture Media. Yep. Uh huh.
All right. With Avaria versus everybody. Have a good night and take care.
Thanks. Bye. See ya.
See ya.